So you want to publish in a high-impact journal, or maybe you've heard something about the quartiles and you want to find a quartile 1 journal. Well, where can we find the list where they rank the journals? In this video, we're going to look at the main pages both for Scopus and Web of Science, and the best thing is we can find out all of this for free. Let's start with Scopus, and that brings us here to the CIMAGO Journal and Country Rank at cimagojr.com. Here we can find the whole list of all of the journals in Scopus, and the best thing is we can filter them. Here we're just looking at a general view of all journals, but we can filter by major subject area, like chemistry, or we can also filter by subcategory, like inorganic chemistry. And we'll see that the number of journals keeps getting smaller as we filter by more specific categories. The great thing here is that we're not just limited to searching by subject area and category. We can also search by region, which can be very useful if the article that we're trying to publish is perhaps more interesting in certain regions or more relevant for certain audiences. And we can even filter if we want open access journals or not. That also gives us a few other options. We can filter for Cielo journals, which are principally from Latin America, and we can filter for Web of Science journals. And one thing we'll find is that many, perhaps not all, but I would say the vast majority of Web of Science journals are also available in Scopus. Now, when we go looking through this list, let's put it on a fairly specific category. Let's try architecture. And here we'll find we're down to 167 journals, and we by default have them organized by SJR. And if we put our mouse over it, it tells us that's the CIMAGO Journal Rank Indicator. Now, it's a little complicated how they go calculating this, but for now, let's just say it's basically calculated based off the number of citations that the articles published in this journal get from other journals within the collection, in this case, Scopus. That's the main way they calculate it. A little more to it than that, but for now, suffice it to say that these journals that are higher ranked, it's more likely that if we publish something there, that more people are going to read it and in turn cite it. So we'll see this little green box with Q1. Those are the first quartile journals. These are the top 25%. These are the best of the best. And as we go down, we'll see that this number will change. We get into the Q2 that are yellow, and as we go towards the end, we'll find Q3 and Q4. And we might even find some that don't have a quartile because they've recently been added to Scopus and there's not enough data on them yet to really give them a ranking. Some other information we find here, off to the side, we've got the flag. Like, apparently the best journal in Scopus for architecture is from the Netherlands, followed by several from the United Kingdom, and then the United States, into Switzerland, and you can see the flag for each country. We can limit by region. Remember, we're saying, okay, we only want those from Western Europe, for example. And that will filter out those that we were seeing from the United States and Chile and a few other countries here, right? Another great thing here is that we can download this data. Once we've gone through and filtered for the area that we're looking for, we can download that so we can work with it offline. Now from Scopus, let's go over to Web of Science. Here, the company behind Web of Science, called Clarivate, maintains their master journal list here at mjl.clarivate.com. And we can search by title or the ISSN, the 8-digit number that each journal has. But if we just leave it blank and click on Search Journals, here we'll find the full list. And then we can start filtering. One important thing we should filter by over here is Web of Science coverage, because by default we're also including the Emerging Sources Citation Index, or ESSI, which is arguably sort of the minor leagues that are working their way in to the Web of Science collection. So some institutions and some ranking systems don't really count the ESSI journals. So if we just select the three main cores the Science Citation Index Expanded, the Social Sciences Citation Index, and the Arts and Humanities Citation Index, we see that we're down to just under 14,000 journals. From there, we can filter by main collection, like business or engineering, computing, and technology, or we can go more specific into the categories. Here we don't have a drop-down list to choose from, but if we click on it, we start getting a list, but we can also type in specifics like nursing, and we'll see that we're up to about 126 journals. We can add additional, but we need to recognize that these are or, not and. What I mean is, if we add nursing and education, you might think we'll have an even smaller number of only those journals that deal with teaching the discipline of nursing. But no, we'll find that we have more results now because we've combined two different areas. So this can be useful if there might be several related disciplines. Maybe we could publish in one of these fields. That way we can add several categories. We can also filter by whether or not they're open access. The interesting thing here is that they tie in directly with the directory of open access journals, another list that we can see separately. So DOAC can be a very useful way for us to filter and find only those that are open access. We can filter by country or region, like let's put in the United Kingdom, for example, and we find only those results here. We can filter by language, which can be helpful, especially if we're looking to publish in a language other than English. Since basically the vast majority publish in English, it's usually not really worth putting in a filter for that, but it can be helpful if we're looking to publish in a different language. We can look by their frequency, which is useful when we have something we really want to get published right away, since an annual journal, for example, might take considerably longer to get our results published than one that publishes monthly or even quarterly. These and more filters are available to us for free. Now the interesting thing is, in both pages we can see the specific page for a journal, but there's a catch. If we try here in the Web of Science Master Journal list, we'll see that now we need an account if we want to see the information for one specific journal. But since, like we mentioned before, the vast majority of Web of Science journals are also in Scopus, we can select this ISSN, the key 8-digit identifier, that's usually numbers and sometimes an X thrown in there, go back to the CIMAGO page for Scopus, go up here to search for it, paste that in, and more often than not, not always, but frequently, it will come up with that same journal from Web of Science. And here, we can get a full breakdown of that journal without needing to create an account or anything, still free. And it'll even tell us which categories this journal ranks for. And we'll see that in this case, this journal, 2D Materials from the United Kingdom, ranks for several different categories, including chemistry under miscellaneous, condensed matter physics, mechanical engineering, and others. And we'll see that for each one, it ranks at quartile 1. But that's not always the case. Sometimes we'll find that maybe it's not as high ranking in some of its fields or some of its subcategories, but in some it is. We always take the highest of the ranking numbers. So even if there might be one or two categories where it doesn't rank as high, we'll take the highest number, the one closest to 1, and we'll use that when we talk about the ranking of this journal. So all of this information is available for free, combining these two resources from Scopus and Web of Science. So now we know where we can find our journals, and now we just need to get writing and start publishing. So that's all for now. This has been Michael White with Research TLDR. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in the next video.